Welcome to Business Beyond Borders, the go-to podcast for CPA firms seeking transformative insights. I'm your host, Lawrence Whittam, and with each episode we'll uncover key insights, best practices, and invaluable resources tailored for CPAs. From trending strategies to diving deep into outsourcing and offshoring, our experts will help in all areas of your business. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Business Beyond Borders. So I have an exciting episode today with Ben Town, who I actually recently met. We were introduced by Denise from Cal CPA, and Ben's got an interesting story where he's a business valuation expert. He has his firm, and he'd been through outsourcing himself and tried it, and then ended up taking a step where he actually built his own team and now started offering it to other firms as well. So again, I want to give everybody the understanding as to what phases firms can go through. So Ben, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Lawrence.
And we'll be meeting up in person soon. I think we've got this Cal CPA event coming up in the end of next month. So it'll be good to meet you in person. But for now, we're doing everything virtually. So can you maybe just start out by giving a bit of your background, sort of what you were doing, what you did with the Cal CPA as well, when you started your firm, and just that. What even brought you to the need for outsourcing, maybe initially?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in San Jose, live in San Jose, built my business here in San Jose, went to San Jose State, go Spartans. And I started my career as a CPA locally here at a kind of a medium-sized local firm, got introduced to all kinds of different aspects of accounting, did tax, did audit, and then found this thing called business valuation after a while, after about 6 years of CPA work. Then just decided I liked it and started the department there. And oh, by the way, somewhere very, very early on, got involved with the California Society of CPAs, and that's been over 20 years, I think, now that I've been a member. So that was some pretty good arm twisting to get me in the door early on. But no, I've loved it ever since. And going back to joined a little bit larger of a firm after 12 years at the smaller firm, didn't like the large size. And after about a year and a half, started up my own firm. So that was about 13 years ago now. Me and my laptop first thing, as we often do. And then just, man, you can't do it on your own. You can. It's very hard, though. And so instead of trying to work, 24 hours a day, try to get some help, I feel like I tried every single different method out there. Getting an intern from the college or getting a part-timer, or I definitely knew I couldn't hire somebody full-time. At that time, I was just scrapping to, make my own salary. And over time, I tried outsource vendors to some more or less success. Some were great, some were cheap, that was really the thing. There was no good combination of items, of characteristics that I could really pull together that really fit exactly what I needed and had the flexibility that I needed as well. So that kind of kicked off the journey towards setting up our own.
And now, what sort of models did you play around with? Were they more on the dedicated model where you had a dedicated person, right? Did you lead up into that? Did you do more projects with some of these outsourcing firms, or what were the different stages that you went through?
Yeah, so early on, it was more project-based or just purely hourly. And then over time, we got to something of a subscription model that I was utilizing, and with a mix of, hourly and project-based in there for other specialty things that may have come up that weren't in the wheelhouse of some of the others. So all in all, I probably ended up engaging with 5 or 6 different vendors over time.
Now, what were those sort of characteristics, right? I mean, again, at the end of the day, every firm sort of has a different needs, right? Different important factors. Like, what were some of those important factors for you early days and even to now as well? What is the reason why it's working?
Right. So I'm a CPA by training and by personality, maybe, which means I'm real particular about how I want my work done. I'm not a testifying expert, which is unusual, I think, especially with smaller firms. However, I still kind of have some of that same DNA from the standpoint of it just needs to be a certain way and needs to be explainable in a way that I want to explain it. So having sort of a more generalized skill set wasn't okay for me. And I wanted to make
But
sure that it was really something that would support me specifically. So either what was happening often was there was like a percentage of the fee, and there wasn't enough of the job getting done to my standard to really bridge the gap to my satisfaction, frankly. Or it was just throw a bunch of hours at it with some relatively lower skill and it just not, being cheap, but not getting very far either. That was a little bit more in some ways
like project completion, right? I
towards
mean,
project completion.
you were getting certain aspects done, but it was maybe just a portion of the project was actually getting done to what you needed, and then you had to put in more time just
That's
to get
right.
it done.
That's right. So cheap and getting it done to 30% or expensive and getting it done to 60%. And that was, for me at that time, wasn't really enough of the project, especially since, and moving forward to today, we're organized as myself as the expert, a project manager level that really helps just keep things going so I don't bottleneck it. And then we also have the India-based team to support them. So we have to be relatively efficient in order to get it done.
Now, what's the structure that you put in place then? Like, where are you up to now, right? Servicing your firm, right? From that. So obviously you've built the Assurance Advisors now as more of that's the brand going out to other firms, right? To help
Right.
support them. But for your internal team, like, what is that size, right? And what does the structure look like for you?
Yeah, so the Assurant team in total is actually, we're getting 2 new people, so that'll bring it up to, I believe, 12. There's about 6 of them that I would say are mostly dedicated to my side, although it fluxes absolutely as the demands change for me and the clients. And then on the other side, generally speaking, we are on a hourly based model, so the client is able to get as much or as little as they need.
Okay. And now, so what is that model that you found works? It's like, so partially the hourly. So are you working more on like a project basis with a lot of these other clients that you're working with now when it comes to your talent offshore? Or are you working more towards, has it been better getting dedicated staff for you? Or what does that look like? What worked best for you?
So for my firm, having at least a pool of people who were dedicated made a lot of sense, because we do a fair number of different types of valuation, and it's not homogenous in terms of skill set what you need. So it actually is better for us where, maybe there are 2 people who really understand, state and gift, and 2 people who understand 409As, and they don't have to be the same people. Whereas when you have a much smaller team, they have to be the same people or you just don't know it, right? So that's been very, very helpful for me internally.
Now, so with this, you chose India, right? Is that just partially from the experience that you had with some of the outsourcing firms? They all happen to be around India. Like, what was your decision for going and setting up in that spot?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. I'll be perfectly frank. The most of the really good talent that was being pushed out there as in a vendor format was from India, is still from India. They have great schools. They have great, a great platform because the big companies have been out there for a long time, really built up the infrastructure around having a good talent pool. So there's just a lot of talent out there, and it's not as robust, I think, most other places.
Okay. And then what about, and you're in Ahmedabad specifically. So again, I spent a lot of time in Ahmedabad, and there's, especially with the schooling side of it, right? There's a lot of great schools in that area that's bringing out accountants. So, but you being in the valuation side, right? It's a bit more of a niche, right, area. So, out of interest, like, have you had to invest quite heavily in that training side of things when they come out of school? Are you finding that more people in that area are getting some experience before you even are able to take them on? Right. Like, what does the actual talent pool look like when it comes to like valuation?
Thank you. That's a good question. So the management level people, and I'll give a shout out to Nishant Soni, who's our director out there, are people definitely with prior experience.
Right.
So there is that pool to draw from, but especially for the lower level staff, the entry level staff, they're coming in, generally speaking, right from MBA school. And so that's actually kind of two things combined. One is that, yeah, we do want to train them ourselves, because that we found that really is quite helpful. Partly it's not just a skill set, although that's part of it. The other part is the culture. We work in a very particular way, meaning we don't want people to be working overnights to match US hours. Those sorts of things, being very respectful of both ends of the team. And then the other part of it is, yeah, we actually hire MBAs for valuation work rather than, accounting path people, because we have found that the finance trained people are able to kind of fill in the knowledge about accounting and good work papers. I always like to say that is easier to pick up than it is to go the other way around.
Now, what are some of those major challenges, I guess, that you faced, right, when you were going this route, right? Because again, taking that step towards owning something offshore is always a bit worrisome for some people, right? I mean, it's just it's one thing starting a business in your backyard. It's a different thing starting a business across the world, right? So, but what were some of those sort of first hurdles that you found that even maybe it was very similar from even getting started to using some of these vendors, right? In that sense as well. Like, what was it that you would shout out, like, this is something you've got to be ready for? Right? For anybody sort of thinking that route.
Well, the very first thing, I like to say that there are some imagined challenges and some real challenges, and really those are very different. I'm going to kind of ignore the imagined challenges for a minute, which I generally speaking, those are the things that actually stop people from doing this. But there are real challenges, no doubt. The very first one is and so this is one of those places where there is argument for quote unquote nearshoring rather than, say, going to India, which is literally the other side of the world and, either 11 and a half or 13 and a half hours shift.
Yeah.
So for that, it actually wasn't a problem for me specifically, but it is a problem for a lot of people. So for me, I end up I'm on the West Coast, Pacific time zone, which is the almost exactly half a day offset.
Yep.
And I end up staying up late doing my work, always have, always will. And so that was not a problem for me to a very large extent. On the other hand, absolutely that can be a problem. You just have to find the times. What are the overlaps? Can you get somebody to, maybe extend their workday in India just a little bit so you can catch them in the morning? It's a little easier on the East Coast even. Mm-hmm. So depending on where you are, you manage it just a touch differently. So
where do you find, like, with the time zone? So that's again a very big challenge that people have, right? Mm-hmm. Just even like how to balance it. So like, what did you find was a good balance between I can communicate with them enough, right? And like, what is that overlap? Is it a couple of hours, as long as you speak to them a couple of hours a day? Because you've gone obviously and built a team now, and again, you're thinking about it from a retention perspective of how do I keep this talent? And again, like you said, if you keep them working US hours, right, whether that's Pacific, Eastern, you're going to generally go down on that retention side because they don't want to work a graveyard shift in a lot of cases, or they'll work it, but then they'll get burnt out, right? So there's different things that you have to balance in a lot more right now. So like, what does that ideal time zone look like for you?
So basically, or at least at this point, we have them work India hours. So generally, they start a little bit later and go a little later. So generally for them, that's 9:30 maybe, and then go a little bit later on the back end. What that enables us to do is then ask them to stay, and by them, I mean, usually it's the manager or one of the seniors that we need to talk to on a particular project. So we're not trying to make the whole team shift anything. And even the people that we need to talk to, we don't do it on a consistent basis. So they can have one late night or shift their day one day. And in that way, we can get the, hour or two overlap. We really do this on a project by project basis internally, just to make sure that it's not a consistent thing where, they're always missing dinner with their kids or whatever it is. Right. And, and same with us, we don't want to be, shifting. For me, it would be way early in order to get that really good overlap. That's worked really well. Plus just a lot of asynchronous communication. So we're on Teams all the time. And actually that works super well because people can be on Teams and not really necessarily engaging on a lot of work, a lot of technical stuff, but maybe have a question back and forth, and that can get resolved, inside or outside work hours, whatever, because we all have our phones. And then email, that again becomes a decision to write that email whenever or respond to that email whenever. So if somebody, doesn't want to respond in the middle of their night, that's okay. And they can go ahead and respond, in the mornings. It does take, you're right, it does take a little bit more purposeful communication between the different tools that we have. That gets the job done. Oh, and one last thing, actually, it's really key for management to be there. So none of the management really on a day-to-day basis is on me. I would be yet another bottleneck that wouldn't create strong enough relationships with each of the staff members to really maintain a good relationship and retention. So that's what Nishant does as the director in Andaluk.
When did you hire? When did you sort of come to that somewhat realization slash? Was it a certain team size, right? That you were like, I really need this person to sort of manage for me, right? And put them there. Like, was that the first hire or was that after a few more technical hires, right? What did that look like?
That I don't know if this would be the common experience. He was absolutely the first hire. We were co-conspirators in it together from minute one because we wanted to build something together. And that was the first thing to build was a utility for Town Advisory, my valuation firm. But, he's had this larger vision, which we've developed together into Assurant. So we needed him first. And by the way, he was doing double, triple duty for a while, being a project manager with us, being an analyst level, and being the guy who really got everything going on the ground from day one. So he was key.
Okay, and then shifting back a little bit to like we started from the time side, we went into a little bit on the communication aspect. So out of interest, like I get a big challenge that comes up is around workflow management and communication, right? And in terms of like project deadlines and making sure that we are actually getting things back to our side in the US with enough time so that we can actually complete it, right? Or if there's a challenge, right, and then they haven't brought up the challenge until the deadline, right? And these things, then we have to push the deadline. So there's lots of things that come with that communication. So can you go into maybe what are some of those ways that you've set up a system, right, yourself that works, right? When it comes to the workflow, do you use specific tools? Do you have to communicate very strongly, right, to the team to make sure that, okay, we've now had to, rather than getting the project back on the deadline day, we've moved back deadlines an extra day so that our team has time to review and finalize? Or what does that look like? Have you had to make any of those changes?
Gotcha. Yeah. What a big topic. It's both process, tools, and culture that really make that work. So we have remote people in the US as well. So some of this was already patterned out internally. So using tools like Monday.com, Monday morning meetings, morning my time anyway, has really gotten us to be able to have that communication flow and that movement of workflow. And we're still working on it. I mean, I'll just say that's the bottom line thing. Things come up and we're, constantly tweaking and fixing and whatever, but it works. We do not miss deadlines. When I'm talking about working with the Assurant team, the biggest thing is culture, actually. When the time zone difference can either be a superpower or your Achilles heel. And so when they're empowered to do the work, they have the information, or at least they have the latitude to be able to make decisions or assumptions, document the hell out of them and give it back, then everybody's able to make progress. So I think that's one of the things that I'd seen previously, that there was so much more analysis by checklist. Yep. Where they could get to, step 4, but then something was off or wasn't clear or whatever. And so you got to step 4 and then you got a question back, which is good and can work, especially if you have a long deadline. That's getting everything perfect the first time. I think one of the things that we're really good at is getting it done and then reverting on the things that, may not be totally perfect yet, then fixing them. So that keeps everything on schedule. And that's something that, really we've had to work with the team because it's much more of I'll say, an American culture type of process rather than something that they're familiar with.
Now, I'm not sure if we've discussed this already, but have you actually been over to the team? Have you been to India?
Yeah, a couple times. Mhm.
Yeah. So do you think that's important for people to see? Was that a bit of a change in mindset regarding sort of like what is capable to build there? Or did you find that you were already sort of utilizing it was more just like that culture piece? Like what did that travel really do much for you in that sense?
Interesting. So I think there's probably two sides, and I won't speak for the Assurant team. I think they enjoyed meeting me and having that connection, the personal connection, because you can have a personal
Yeah.
connection over Zoom. It's still a little different though. For myself personally, it was really important. It ended up being much more important than I had even anticipated. Just getting a feel for their culture, getting my mind open a little bit more cosmopolitan in that sense, and just having that perspective. I mean, just so much enjoyed meeting in person, not just say Nishan, but also his wife and daughter. It really makes things much more grounded, and that adds a layer to the ability to trust people, frankly.
Yeah.
I really know where he's coming from, for example.
Yeah. And it's one level like in terms of best interests, right? You know who they are now. Like you said, the element of trust is there, right? And is being built on. It's very difficult in my eyes. I think we're all in more of a remote world, and I think some firms work more remote than others still. But it's still a level of trust is much easier to build, right? When you actually meet somebody in person at the end of the day.
It must be a very hindbrain kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So as we start to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to maybe just share about Assurant, right? The way that you work compared to maybe others from a differentiator perspective, and that you would like to share as we start to come to a close?
Yeah. So I really enjoy working with my own team at Assurant, and a small client set at the moment. I think about seven clients. Really enjoy working with them as well. We do offer them on an hourly basis with or without the resource set that supports it. And at the end of the day, it's generally a really good thing that I'm here in the US and can troubleshoot if necessary, especially during onboarding. On the other hand, I stay the hell out of it. After that, they become your team, and that's it. And I think people enjoy that just as much.
Yeah. No, very cool, very cool. I really appreciate you jumping on, Ben. Again, a slightly more unique story, as there are a few other firms that have done the same, right, where they got involved in it themselves, and then they've sort of started to build a little bit of a team offering, right, but not many, right. And I think that sort of brings a unique perspective to it. So, and Ben, look forward to seeing you in about a month's time, or just over a month's time, I think. And again, everybody, I hope you had a good episode today on Business Beyond Borders. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. Glad to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to Business Beyond Borders. I'm Lawrence Whittam, and it's been a pleasure bringing you impactful insights tailored for the modern CPA firm. Remember, the world of accounting is vast and ever evolving, and we're here to navigate it together. For more resources and episodes, don't forget to subscribe and reach out to our experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your business and explore the limitless possibilities beyond borders.